When you love what you think you are not supposed to love, you learn how to do research until something you did not let yourself want suddenly offers itself to you. I loved the body and the voice. I loved 3 voices, actually. One was a small voice, another was sarcastic, the third was declamatory. Then the sadness I brought from the north mingled with the sadness of the previous tenant and became my own, like the shoulder bag that declares my class background. I have 2 of them. One was a gift from my mother. Another I got at school. You might say the school gave it to me, because I belong to a class of people who never think of buying things for themselves. If you were to remove my body from the picture and concentrate just on the bag, you could learn a lot about her aspirations for me, the position she thought I should occupy, her sense of smell and figures of speech. Fear and sadness in her breast entered my body through her milk, and I died. It's nice to be nice. Don't you know that? I reply because I make up my own lines like a singer-songwriter, that your wishes for my happiness are oppressive. There are no strings on me. With my bloody hands, I have accomplished one thing today. Full of curious knowledge, with my trembling hands, with my unshapely writing, and I have found it almost impossible to stifle a feeling of obnoxious superiority that wants to express itself by whistling or belting the chorus. The first possibility is a quotation. The second possibility is another quotation. The third possibility is a cliché. The language sets, as the blood in a bruise sets, so that it cries out at a touch and gives less. You are up at 7:30 and going to work before 9. There must be some strings on you. With my bloody hands, I maintain my good luck by giving 50 cents to anyone who asks for $1. Half of what you want, I give with my trembling hands. I never complain about my curfew. I always go straight to bed with my unshapely writing. One of the coins in your pocket was an insect, because you don't want your means for making fire to explode suddenly in your pocket. Next year, let it lapse with the greatest pleasure. I don't make tools with my bloody hands. I have never made a tool with my trembling hands. No one in my social circle has ever made a tool. Marks weakly pressed into a surface. There are no strengths, only tools seeking to exploit slight or pretended advantages. I'm Chiquita Banana, and I'm here to say all men protect things they value. Big men protect big things, and small men protect little things that they consider most precious. In critical moments, it might expand or shrink, but it's always the same thing they're protecting, and it makes them vulnerable. It consumes you, yes, like a piece of fruit or bite of banana, the shape that promised happiness smiles across time. My heart belongs to Daddy, but I have never wanted to be its caretaker. Oh God, this yes is unlooked for, undeserved, unreasonable, and impolite. I know how to commit myself. It's not true that my heart draws in 2 directions. It is not suspended. Nothing is easier than knowing what I choose, but I truly suffer from shyness of declaring myself like this in your company. I have learned disobliging words should not be spoken when others are present. A heart shows enough what it prefers before you get to the point of hurting someone. Really, softer signs are enough to inform my suitor that his attentions are unwanted. love without friendship. You are always honest. I try to be honest. I mean, it's a constant struggle. I lie sometimes, but I do not invent. How is that possible to do? Thinking wishfully is the force behind all falsehood. To live securely, Aaron rents and sells furniture. In places he sees his name traduced, Aaron takes advantage of the poor, finds himself sitting in a room for the same reason an evil spirit shows up in a circle. What do I think happened? I think he offered them deals. They wanted something, and he offered them what they wanted. He conjured them to appear by offering to grant the wishes of their thoughts. Because how do you conjure a spirit? Just like catching a fish. And his name has been used as one of the baits. He offered to stop being an obstacle. He offered respect. He offered me, or he offered to replace me. How do you control a spirit? Just like a spirit controls you. Temptation. The thought of what you wish for causes you to appear and intervene, because you can't name the actual object of your wishful thought, which tempts you. You have to lie, naming an object no one could possibly care about. Wishful thinking must be the most powerful force in the world. Part of what one does in a job is pretending to do the job, pretending to be a teacher or a cop or an assistant in an office or a store, pretending to be busy, pretending to listen. I suppose it is an element of play in work. It explains why workers need evidence that they are still in the trade they were trained for, as Irving Goffman observes. Stacking chairs, moving pianos. Is this part of my job? Goofing off. Is this how I spend my time? Everything I do without caring demoralizes me, and I look for evidence that I care about something. Sometimes the answer is yes. This pretending can be good for me, pretending to know something or to be interested in something. I depend on this process for my intellectual development. If I stopped pretending, I might never learn anything new. Part of my job is there only to convince me that I am actually doing my job. This is the worst kind of pretending. In school, where I work, this pretending takes the special form of question and answer. My students ask a question, and I invent an answer. I ask my students a question, and they invent an answer. I listen to an interesting lecture, ask a question about something vaguely relevant, and get a brilliant, improvised answer. I listen to a boring lecture, invent a question from pure spite, and ignore the speaker's response. Some of these questions are sincere and productive of useful knowledge. Others, without intending to produce knowledge, may do so inadvertently. They are all seemingly designed to produce false issues. School is very good at creating situations where talk is required, and these situations are ripe for intellectual dishonesty, because saying something is automatically superior to saying nothing, because no one takes my protestations of uncertainty or ignorance seriously, because it is never acceptable to refuse to answer, because the continuation of the form of question and answer is the only thing about which anyone reliably cares. I invent false issues. Then, because what I say is coercive, it seduces me more than my audience, because anything that exists tries to convince me to adjust to what is already there, because what I imagine saying but keep to myself has its own dim coercions. I pretend to care about the false issues. I add to them. They become my life's work. It is possible to dedicate your entire working life to things that make no difference, things that you would think no one could possibly want. The same problem may be observed in writing. I once knew a writer whose entire style, on the level of the phrase, was about multiplying things that make no difference, moving them into view, and pretending to care about them. Always at the center of what he wrote, he narrated the production of his own narration until he somehow managed to dress the needless in the clothes of the fundamental and crucial, describing this attention to the needless, finally, as an ethics. Something that is not well understood about writing is that when you write something, you have to inhabit it. This rule may sound like magical thinking, but it isn't. If you write a book about Paulette Goddard, someone might ask you to give a lecture about her. Someone organizes a symposium on movie stars from the 30s and invites you to give a paper. Pretty soon, before you know it, you've written enough material for a second book about Paulette Goddard. Then you read about a conference on women in classical Hollywood cinema, and you start grumbling because they didn't invite you to participate. Meanwhile, members of Goddard's family have been sending you old letters, clothes, all the stuff they don't want and can't fit in their garages, and it piles up in your house until, really, the subject of your book has taken over your entire life, and you may truthfully say, I am Paulette Goddard. This kind of mimetic regression is expected in reading. If you read a book about bees, you start to notice them. It's as though the bees are following you around. If you write about bees, the effect is even deeper. When you write something, you have to inhabit it. And ethics for writers should start here. Cares for what readers might do with what you write are misplaced. Thus, I am opposed to the idea that the relationship between writer and reader models a better kind of social relationship, that from reading books, I learn to read people better, that in reading, I encounter something other than myself and learn to recognize it, respect it, empathize with it. And the related idea that writers should prepare for the activity of readers, that I should empathize with readers, anticipate what they will care about, and reward them for their attention. These ideas are not only wrong, but harmful. Wrong because how you feel about other people is not a reliable foundation for an ethics. It isn't possible to have a personal relationship with everything. It isn't even true that my actions would be any better if I learned to empathize with my victims. No, better to treat people well regardless of how I felt about them, regardless of whether I cared, even if I couldn't stand them. Harmful because everything I write without caring demoralizes me. There is nothing worse than writing, trying to write something if I do not care about it. At these times, my imagination of how readers are likely to respond, sheer paranoia and projection irrelevant to my own pleasure and conscience torments me. One of the first things you learn about lyric is that it is an address to something that does not appear. Writing that professes to accommodate readers, to reward them for their attention, has already given up on this possibility. Accommodating readers is not ethics at all, it is rhetoric, about which I am skeptical and, like everyone, suspicious. Afternoon snacks and their wrappers being worked open, and the cries of frustration when they resist, repeated and at a higher volume. Milk spreads in the cup of coffee, sinking, then rising when it warms. Knowing, loving what you love, which is basically gravitation, and it helps to think of your movement towards it as a descent. To dispose of what you have used, to put down the cup, to rest it in its saucer with the kind of politeness one kind is pretending that others do not exist, another kind is pretending to give others your attention. It doesn't have to be pretend, of those who know what they love, and it doesn't change. A poured liquid finds the level it loves to be, following the sides of the cup. The cup receives and pours out, and the cup loves to hold and be held. Handful I am, handful I give. For surely, the promise to love something is provisional. It is a kind of lawlessness. Thus, the demand for love also is unlawful, since it is not enforceable. But surely there is no such poem. Is so much cleverness ever truly wasted? The values of order, prudence, and art are not unlawful or vulnerable. I mean, they are not sociable. For the house cat, surely, in whom one may view my neuroses as in a mirror, but her criteria are not fathomable, warped by her characteristic feline traits, curiosity and fear of the outdoors, earthquakes, the ceiling fan, strange people, loud noises, and death. Nothing pains me so much as my fabrications. Nothing could be less essential than the questions that occupy me. For surely, whom I loved, conditionally, it now appears. All the hours you spent reading and puzzling over Adorno could, without warning, be extinguished. Then the worst jobs in service carry a kind of authority, which can be the expertise of doing the job, or the nurse's uniform, or the privilege of not wearing a uniform. And I, the least remarkable object in the room, stubborn, not in acting but in failing to act, exchanged being generous for being right on more than one occasion, and it was worth it. Extra items, not to realize the object, to put power into the form. The powers of service originally were abilities, and I, the lobster on the plate, robbed of the powers of speech, or acquainted with failed eloquence, at least in the New Testament sense, acquainted, not believing exactly in the innate, but fiercely protective of latent and dormant qualities, admit to having a personal stake in awkwardness and a distaste for outcome-based education. Cold genius, that thing you study, all cleverness is a result of classical learning, and along with wealth is the source of strength. We could go back and forth a few times, insisting we are fine, and inquiring, really? And I, an extra item, with my onlooker affect, lack of graciousness, and the unusually cold temper of my critique, because Cian said controversial literature is supposed to be hot to trot, but this is remarkably cold, a frost piece. Now I go inside things and find their secrets, accidentally extinguished. I don't need more than the space between your fingers. Now go inside. What are you going as? That thing you study? We have accidentally extinguished it. What was it you said you wanted? To put power into the form. Cleaning must fail. Good spot to commit suicide. Nothing to distract, interrupt, or change your mind. Little mess, and someone to pick it up tomorrow. The best place is a hotel room. Bathtub. Remember the poem by Lisa Jarneau where she took the paper that Jim Buckhouse wrote for undergrad intro to philosophy class about whether he could be wrong, about being in pain, and changed it to Paris. I'm doing the opposite of that. This little body I uncover without expectation of pleasure, intimate but not sexual, like handling someone's stomach. Or has that been rezoned? All professors of English should take a vow of celibacy. Do you even enjoy the things you call pleasure? I was tempted to whisper, do you love me, or do you merely love your work? Both varieties are restricted. Anyone who has made a list knows how difficult it can be to do work. My job is finding curves, overlaps, and confused by things that used to turn you on, links on the burning necklace. Without activating, it recedes, rough and smooth, interests of the flesh withdrawn from you. I resented the things I loved and couldn't feel. Only the cold recognizes the appearance of love, gelid. The heart, wrapped in a plastic sheet, acknowledges the power and extent of love. You turn me on, but you don't make me laugh. You don't turn me on, but you do something better. You influence me. My turn is a kind of uniqueness. Only criminals know how to enjoy life. Change it back to pain. Do not restate, do not resuscitate. Visualize myself in a hotel room when the door opens and pain enters. All sizes fit one. Do not dominate us, Lord. What part of you remains awake when every light goes out? One part that worries the floor might get wet. With the promise that sleep extends to all things, we, many dead, tremble. Does your mind wander? But your hand knows where it is. Only sleeping, your hand forgets where it is and comes to itself in a new place. Stillness of the sleeping body, we, the greater number, feel as paralysis in the dream, and a residue of emotion sometimes infects the moment of waking. I dreamed you spat at me, then denied it. There's a shade in you in which you sleep, even when the sun is shining, a shaded area that goes inside. The many spill that finishes in a puddle. We will never be able to wipe it because it will never finish spilling. Your throat, pulling water into your body, also your body, adjusting to its cold. You store, you lock, you keep the key. Like people whose eyes do not change when they smile, or laugh, or cause, or feel pain. Like foreign objects meeting in a man's mouth. Like waiters who wear brilliant white shirts to show we never spill anything. Like the wallpaper sticks to the wall. I make a kissing face at you, dog, tied in front of Lulu's as your necklace cuts into your neck. Like mine, poor boy, your soul craves discipline and baby talk. This pool of light burning a hole in the sidewalk, it's the same ray that finds me in my room. I have not forgotten the difference between a poem and a handshake to mix and spread the filth of our extremities. I don't trust you, only the texture of your coat, kiss on the mouth, and welcome the pain that lightly presses my throat. On the unmoving train, glancing at pages in a magazine, you were on the phone dealing with a technical problem, patient and sarcastic, when your glance fell on me and woke my intellect. You seemed to address me, your voice rising in two syllables that were almost my name, a word that when at age 5 I first heard it pronounced, I mistook for my name, errand. For me to brave that stare in exchange, I would want something valuable. Can you be sincere as you turn to go, older, suddenly pretending to read? Now silence warms the earth. There are too many grammatical and spelling errors in the city to continue displaying them. I'm Chiquita Banana. My name is taken from the shop where I was made. I have a lot of words in my head that I don't say. I love the warmth of the candle, and I also enjoy its light. Of course, I sometimes do misspeak the meaningful words in my head. If I should let my voice go, what obscenities I might utter. We can never entirely sleep, and sex, as everyone knows, is mostly dormant. The library is a sexy place since the books on the shelves are mostly dormant. Being a poet means that I am not constrained to make sex from my own obdurate flesh alone. I also have opportunities to make sex out of words and concepts. Therefore, as a poet, even I might be considered sexy. The ingredients of my being are words and flesh, mostly. Everyone has the same flesh, only the words are different. A recovered name suddenly floods the memory, taken from the shop where I was made. I once gave someone a dictionary. Thank you.
This first one is called Malicious. I'm lying in the creek. The creek sounds of my thoughts, and my thoughts are heaving trellises of doss. Flat-scaled, hay jizzed. I got dough, but other than that, not too many experiences together. What's Altair doing? He's in a lot of pace, but after he dies, the pace becomes less intense. Our attentions go, cativo, in dumpster-shouldered sails over arrangements of dream gases. What? The stronger the issues, the lamer the seas, the more powerful the catharsis. How we reconcile them? I have work on that. The rejection's quickening for black bejesus. Video gamers' struggles along rendered plateaus, their bubble brain, natal gum, Humpty Dactyl shorts. Land your bird on that pad. Lose hope, whoever does. What is the victor's gown? I currently have all the effect of a wristband, surrounded by ladders, encrusted with robins. There is no suitable surface where to affix my portal, whilst you made the Bible into a bib. Battle white, environment suited, laser rifling men. Puncture points along wiped gradient halls. Intermittently electrified, I gasp. Then I contemplate how the facility gets food in. Pin-lit product placement, thick with newborns down, is thin, watchful, blithe, convicted, encouraged. After surgery, I hit some times in the den, where I also surveyed everybody, and everybody loves flawless ramen. Jobs sonnet. It's 64 degrees Fahrenheit as I walk the night stalker to the gas chamber. I think I've had a lot of really excellent grapes, but I never think about grapes. My questioning face is more petite. I like to go lightly. The budget issues breathe upon me like Bathsheba. Also, I have two troubling pieces that prominently feature teeth being lynched. Aside massive craters lined with newish shelving, basic stuff. Aggravatingly, nearby there are also a bunch of deer craters in the grass. Whose bro is all the Lord after your Candlemas party? Yet, I'll drink it up, even out of the bottom of a rotten fruit bag for Barack Obama. While the whale population heads to Sandals, Antigua, where companions fly free to the 65% whales. Him, I lost. But I honestly think I could fuck a whale up on land, to the point where it would sing frantically for its sparing, right by that little night spot where the Osmonds first got big. It's another sonnet based on Lockup, that show on National Geographic Channel set in prisons. My wife's laughing because she's obsessed with this show, so I actually script this from watching, I don't know, 180 episodes, so I came up with 14 lines. It's bad math. Locko. I'm major, oversized architecture magazine party level drunk. It's my giveaway. Why are you all stressing? I saw those platinum pubes in the film gate way before your kids detected them. So, good luck fishing for that kind of cod now. That's an old family retainer there that started pursuing people into bed, doing a bunch of things under the soma of crack. To the Selectrix chair, to prisons he went, which keep getting added onto with unbelievably cool chaining systemics. Shards transmitting their data to full arrays. I mean me. Killer sticks, but towel weak, with no tush for to show. B-boys in rooms of all bones. Sonnet. To keep the hot babysitter listening, I'd mention another landmark voided example. Next day at chapel, abstract but sad. Schemers say stale. I know. Jealousy, a vascular key card, a costume that's fully preoccupying our camp, its swampy henhead crest of loosely handcrafted, homespun process. I make mistakes in the Headless Horseman era. Can I get them to you somehow? It'd help. Unsheathed, firmly holding everyone's change. He's like, what? We all flipped for his panel talk. Shit. Lowering into the caverns, way after the general emptying out. In retrospect, I'm glad Aqua Tours suffered those fatalities. So, I guess sometime last year I made a very short film, one of a series where I was sort of collaging audio of some of George Oppen's readings in San Francisco from the late 60s. I don't know why I decided to do this, but what I'm going to do is read in my George Oppen collage voice a short work that I guess it mostly comes from some San Francisco poems, some of the late recordings. And it's called The Albatross by George Oppen. I work my mouth for this one. What spirit of the bed sees, of obstructions in the stark structures, masked in the sunset, needle after needle, a marvelous object more blinding than the sea. A haunted house is not the marvel of things, forcing the new with their cozy black ironwork, our arms stretched out, and the winds comb their clumsy sides in the lucid towns paralyzed under the truck tires, under the eyes of young wives, consensus unwinding its powers, pity in the continuous sound. First life, rotting life, like our lives, we have gone. The wood splintered, our cords over the rocks. Summon one's powers, the courageous and the precarious children. This will go on for a while. It's one long word with some sonnets, whatever. The Kong's punching you like you're a bathroom duck. You're a whiskey scooter. Your husband died in a cafe, hand in hand through the parkland. Its pussy smells like crackers, looks like semi-precious barrel. Who lighted this lighting? Cracked knuckles, chapter killing. Shoot, I ain't that skinny. Your liver leaks silver. Who should hurt but be appreciative of modest trials, where we could all get on his side of the husbands before we play 3 o'clock Space Thor. Furtive astral sunbeads, the exposure beam, advancing up 40 sequential positional moves, inscrutable, fat face fire, face then restive, by highlighted standoff, the scrunched up bulldog puss cometh, just for maintenancing a whole floral shop. Sure, I knew something like this could happen on I-70, but to Robin Williams? You not telling him my advice when I paid for something completely else? What? Better not be no similar problems with your wish. I captured V-hits, smoky, oniony strings, always tiny pooled buoys visually, but the Sovereign's remixes, you have to radio for them. Better be me, so you should accompany my drastic helium music. About star scum, Siamese go trains, axial shaw drainers, and Berkeley. How it bulldozes sea shacks into these steely infographics, lesed out on code. Sinker fastballs that dip down, watched over by trippy priests, all the way to ancient Thebes. Patchwork widow, you're lucky to be on a seek out after the convoy. Hanging shinily shy, saying I love you to the brush man. Guys sit down, water liquor inside. That's also where my honey ride, funny. For my fishing journeys to my car crusade, but I also like you, it's obvious. Dark little sky carp. Biggs to Hunt's arp. Despise me, dispense me. When obtaining new music from Europe, no one will phone you back but steam. I'm flying you to the tomb, to the plaza. Who believes their bosses perp over talk, those snowdrifts slight, creases in ice, freaky about loans? Me. And I agree, we should plan to spend this campaign apart. Spring vacations will pop up exact. My feeling is it's less, but still pretty killer chicken. Poverty seems more like a sift crime. Let's get off that instability capability, knees angled out. Let me wrestle pass. How do I then put up with right to opt? By experiencing a Yiddish nap. Those panhandles pointing inwards, it's just quaint. But my shorty, for to be a girl. So I dawn block. I drop leafy, oily grains onto a flat cookie sheet under the broiler, and I rock out and dance play, unified and unkempt. I hear it all toasting up, the dragon overcoming the fagin. So why am I made frenzied as tiles? My shins run steep as I lay trusting over the neck. That's when my new mother flew to heaven, by the way. Next disease. Nibbling on chocolate crosses, lancing through my other kin, 35 to 30. Another freak cousin, the Shad. We ended up buying a hardware store together. Yet most hardware isn't that advanced. Like taking a friend's car to church, then wrecking said friend's shitty car. But no eyewitnesses. Fuck that car. I'm shipping mine to hired sentries on the balm. This is more discount publishing. This is no. Your two-door gabled bird enclosures suck. Buckling, circling, hand-holding those paintings of the Cape. Bold chassis out on the oceans, fabrics whipping, pounded in gurgles. Smell like you suck. On the other hand, I only depend on my pa for some things, for web deals. Then everyone asks, how'd I stay so curvy? Comes out of perf. While the answer constantly rains down on you, fun. Energetic, calm workshops with me doubting you'd come. Yikes about your place. I heard. Wow. If another duck suddenly jumps on your bed, refuse to ever let go of it. Host your findings in a public forum, example. In Coronas of the Sphinx, falling down a flight of punched, throwing them, thrilling them, a good open corp, not even close. I don't like fish. Pike makes for mansions, but the little bees make weaves. So shriek the weeds adjacent to the creeks. The case, it's cling. Somebody walked by, but I was at New Mexico Chili's when I heard. Get me walk up those stairs, I said. I got to being like a vacant doper in a flip book. Accents. At the waists, I'd seem on the lookout. I would reread the temp directs. I'd go sniff the dead man's feet. My amazer is more federal. It always was. Federal pandas smearing their feces all over themselves, right in front of my tiny kids. These will become the next homosexual industrialists, up for doing anything, clad in hubristic tuxedos, with huge coffee can cocks. I know. Wet? Yeah. Photography? Open. The Giza dance forces loom. A puppetry performance, then Heather, then me, paralleling in a golden coupe. This tendency you have to just flip over makes me yearn more for the city as it's depicted by the news, where the Kong comes rising out of Newtown Creek and is right now punching a little guy up, blood in a thick red syrup bonnet flung about his head, mites drawing strength from smoky flesh of Achilles. Spruce rivets the air, 1,000 white gates round all hype, in freaky stiff louvers stretched along the cliffs. Holy cohive. Smell hypes, but wind rhymes. In batched I-beam makeup, naval station frauds, Carno oxygenic rides, showy. The omens are lame, drying out eventually, lying for the curry of a gatehouse. Wait, does she still come with that clipboard? I swear, it's fucking unchanged from conflict to conflict. Her brilliant new embassy complex is fundamentally an occupied plinth, resting on a grid of titanium needles, planes rushing through the propane towards Southeast Pacific gangs. Die, phosphorus, die! But it just won't. Getting it with later age, i.e. after 38, butt bumping with the whole rest of purgatory, locked right to my stats, passive of decadences. My racks of artwork, right as the market hardens. Arg. I'm tired. I want to nail the situation, then flee it. Dial up a bunch of roofed campgrounds, become an enemy of the Parmesan, and then go down on Gonzo. Heaps are here. Why you wail? To be a reindeer like you. Rice, Americans, will enhance any live readings of your work. Eat it, you'll feel it. But the vampire only appears as a cautious photogram. White women, I'm serious. Why the shitty cots? To Point Glossy, you a rock on the run in another long rendered platform that's arc-lit, then booed dark. Off to the right, in a bout of tipping towards the gasosphere, set at the far end of those same lame omens, pilfered of any natural setouts. for charting, for them. Soulmate emerges with her camera's water weight, clutching a shack for your use, to park your tude. Like rioters, agitating even the skin, reptile necks, ape-like fronts, rocky stripes, hen milkers, external drive, the six of dust, peace bells. Later, you climb down and attack those Higgs. Scorpio-handed, smoker-made, open the hose, electro songs, bricked pipes, sumo rays. Back to timing all my runs at the water slides, splash, as air cycles along the suit's short Spider-Man wings. Good luck, for I can't now protect you if you're still angry about the high purse being offered. Then, off to my manor kitchen of thick, clear lacquer counters, with flakes of bright gold set within. But chopping shit with my lights up, like watching froze, flaying tigresses. But all the while, living tigers are becoming a full-on drag towards the planet, fucking man-eating dependencies. And I see how this enchains our true enemy, radio. Flaky, cool drag race bikers, pie clubs, cheese and beer pie banks, the taunts, tersely zipped up convicts, male civs, ordered into frontiers, tasered Buddhas, feet blackened, out there longhand, your lips locked to Shiva. Spring gains and boots gushing. You get ill and go straight. I have joined the omnivortex. Do you understand? If you drown, the art could go on. Ready as roommates, we fan the butter until it's back cold again. Our dining rooms are packed, bunched with babes, crying out for the retiring coaches. Like emissions from kilns, the images, which I dig, as I strut, coming through the upcalm as a beta pearl, from out of arches and couches, quads of the sweepstakes, and doubting I would ever trade up. They're the papers I served to my father. Then they allow the eel on the train. Later on, I get a speeding ticket for having nausea. Do you really think the Army's well in control here? It ain't. The ephemeral traffic is also eel-ribbed. I'll not come back down there for months, falling over majorly detailed zones of civic maquettes, the laryngitis of relaxation within immortal concepts. Ferry crossings like belts cinch the bay, diaper processions, pockmarked lights, GPS, asleep of the darling, Misa, orcas, freaking received. I look at them while pausing my auto turrets. I all-out yield to the front court ellipses, gyrating death's heads, itty gaps, Easter sucked through mean pinholes. That's a fine piece of asp. Health-attaining, tone-generating furs. For 31 minutes or 4 minutes, wisely I just train. The back plumage indicative. Brandy slushies, tanned, fugly Austrian women. No access there to the chromolithic stardust, the extracula. Alien worlds or road trips to gods. Red beeps, FBI schleps, bakeries in Latina coves. Astronomically squalid evidence, an insane, even gelatinous femur coming over via the reveal. I'm drunk on the desecration and ranch hexes of it. Grail myths traveling out of bounds. On adversarial tracks, buttery, duck-mouthed, smokened, clearly got through our Navy. Pentagonal adipose deposits, coronas of Fresno fires. Desiccated red mud ceramic beer collectibles, Doppler fans in the woods, around the hotels, rays spreading out to corners concretized, illuminated by realistic, intense tech. Hey, falafeller. Your dog is alive, sheathed in digits, but catty, tuning in, cold as panther beams. Ex-sorcerers, you coo, I'll fox, wade into the deeply golden soup, abandoned to my fucking. If I go with pain, I get deltas. No matter what I eat, though, even foxy veggies, my jowls grow. I get sued the second I arrive someplace. You'll think your bird's my way. I am almost glad you're sick, so I can have new people over for lunch. Knockers, stuffs, chubs, and Tito. They look at me like that, I get the belt. Awesome. Maybe eat your burger after you meet up with the cows, fully seeing how the brown works with the green, the way it drapes the Amtrak team. My clone just now texted to me. He's a virgin, a history cop investigant. My exact nucleus, but set in amber cleats. Red, red, red plaid, bad skull. Oh, shit. I'm joined by other transitive stallions, also dressed head to toe in Alvin Klein. Forget about those touts, them MSN perps. Negative assembly, happier prep. It's barely life, the beating off. So, sorry, in you the avalanche passes through a reasoned sifter. Go, 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 you. I forgot how. I Michael Jordan, athlete of vents and burners, stoves, stoic businesses. In the last 16 months, my income line has resulted in my obtaining primary ownership of 3 Shakey's pizzerias in Central California. Boom. I'm excited every day. So the placebo is true. Even society's leaders have to have scans for their carbohydrate beatbacks as I vote, vote, vote. And they say, go, 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 you. But I forgot how. Then they pulled him out of the water. He seemed so approachable, so chill. With his bright, flashing tangerine HUD, he liquefied us completely benevolently. No. It's where a laser gun gets attached to a fabric whip, on which to hang and choke, flopping in lakes of sea salt flakes, in falcon-stenciled literary panels. I had to cut that sky carp up. My fault for the rounded off, simplified paddles. I'm only a Roman. But how could I have known? I don't write this paste, and I'd beat the pulp out of any poet who did. The end. Thank you all very much.